Welcome to the Dr. Dance Mom podcast, your guide to strong dancers with a bright future. I'm your host, Dr. Tara Christensen, doctor of physical therapy, dance medicine specialist, and proud dance mom. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Dr. Dance Mom podcast. Today's episode will cover a hot topic at this time of the year, at least. We're going to talk a little bit about competition day, competition weekend nutrition, and what our dancer athletes should be fueling themselves with and what that might look like from a practical standpoint. So welcome back to the podcast, my friend Angel Miller, and she is a certified nutrition counselor, and she is here to chat with us about this topic and provide some insight in terms of specific food options, really what dancers need to fuel their bodies, and maybe some strategies that we can use on competition weekends, just some practical advice that we can employ throughout the season. So welcome, Angel. Welcome back.
Nope. So happy to be back. Yay. And I love this topic. I love talking about nutrition, and I love food, and I love eating it and making it. So, like this, I could talk about it forever. So super excited to do this one. Yeah.
Yay. So I want to start by just talking a little bit about nutrition in general. I do a little bit of, talking about nutrition just in a general sense in some of my workshops. I recently did a newsletter on competition day nutrition. It was really kind of basic and just background information. But I do feel as a healthcare provider, it is also my responsibility to have a basic knowledge of nutrition to be able to pass on to my patients, because oftentimes nutrition can be an important piece of the puzzle, especially with healing. So this is something that I also talk about throughout, the season with some of the dancers that I work with as well. But let's start with talking about what you might bring to eat at a competition, or like what a typical day might look like for like a dance athlete. What are the most important things that they get into their bodies? And, what of those things might be things that you would bring from home typically? And some of those things be supplemented by ordering out. So we've got, obviously, some studios are staying more local, so they're doing more local competitions. You may bring food from home, but others travel a lot. They're staying in hotels all weekend. So there may be a little bit of difference from one to the other. So let's just start with like what we need for a day at a competition.
In my opinion, the day of a competition, you need to keep your dancer fueled throughout the whole day. And we all know that those days are super, super long. Like we're getting up at 4:00 in the morning and awards are at 11:00 at night. And depending on where you are, you're maybe staying somewhere or you're driving all the way back home. That is a very long time that your dancer needs to be fueled, and it can be super difficult depending on where you are going for these competitions as well. I know personally, and for my dancer, when we have to get up at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, we're not thinking about food. It's not really something that we want to be doing, is waking up and eating, but and there might be jitters and nerves and all these other things that we need to take into consideration. But for the most part, I do require that she eat something for breakfast. It's very important. It's breakfast, breaking the fast. They call it that for a reason. So what you're putting into your body for the first time that day is super, super important. I always try to make sure that there's some sort of protein element so that, they're going to be full for a while. It also has a ton of nutritional value. You need protein for everything, muscles, just basic human functioning. So that, and it could be different depending on the day. Greek yogurt is something that's great. It's very easy to get down. You throw some fruit in there or maybe some granola and you're pretty good to go. I know a lot of kids like bagels and things like that. And yes, it's a very easy thing and it's very convenient because you can like grab it on the way. But it's not the best. But if, it's it's people are going to eat it. My daughter had one the other day. She was like, I really just want a bagel. Okay, fine. Like, whatever. I get it.
Yeah.
But
Get something in their body.
you want something in their body. You're hoping you can like fill it up with something else. Like, hey, have a piece of fruit with it or something. But
Yeah.
I'm typically really trying to do something protein based with a healthy carb, which usually will tend to be a fruit.
Mhm.
And then we kind of go from there. Then we've got lots of snacks, we've got lunch. I am a person, I bring everything from home. It's how we have always lived. We try to get all of our nutrition and our food from whole foods. So, like, we're very conscious of what we eat. We've got dietary restrictions that we need to worry about as well. So, I'm always planning ahead of like what I'm going to do. So I know like this is what I'm going to, and I have a little cooler and I bring it with me and it's fine. It sits in my car. If I need it, I run out or I bring it in with me. It sits in my glamour gear, whatever. Like we've always got stuff. So it's super important to start off with something and then you can kind of go from there based on how your dancer is feeling, what your schedule is like, things like that.
Yeah, and you said something that I find so important. So just having something available all the time because those days are jam-packed, they're crazy, and sometimes, like the dance teacher or whoever takes them and they want to like run the dance real quick. Or, they may have a change in the order of their dances
Yeah. Or
because
like you might
the
think you have a
competition.
break, but in reality,
Right.
it's just like, no, we need
Yeah,
the next five numbers right now. And then
exactly.
what we're going to
Yes,
have 15 minutes to shove some food in your face. Now you don't have that. So
exactly.
and I have been places at competitions where people are ordering or they're door dashing and the food doesn't come and
Come
then
on time.
it's your
Yeah.
kid is starving and when that
Yes.
blood sugar drops like
Mhm.
it's a whole other nightmare you don't want to be dealing with. So
Right.
and it doesn't have to be anything major,
Right.
string cheese, those small little oranges,
Mhm.
grapes,
Yep.
bananas, nuts
Yep.
and seeds are difficult because of allergies. So I'm always
Yeah.
very cautious about that. I try not to bring those in.
Mhm.
Um,
Sliced apples,
yeah, like
peanut
any type of
butter. Well,
fruit,
nuts.
any type of veggie, you can do carrot sticks or,
Yep.
cucumber slices. They don't make a
Right.
mess either. So you can, get
Yeah.
those in quick, some whole grain crackers. Um, there are options and there are good options and there are bad options. So I
Yeah.
tend to err on the side of like a better option. Like my daughter likes to have crackers. Well, I'm pretty picky about what type of cracker we're going to bring.
Mhm. Yeah.
You can pick and choose. You don't have to be so, but I am. So,
Yeah.
so there's lots of little beef sticks,
Yep.
things
Yep.
like that. If you have a little cooler, you can bring yogurt, you can bring cottage
Mhm.
cheese. There
Yep.
are a lot of options.
Yeah.
Um, it's just people get overwhelmed and because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Um, so, you just got to like kind of stop and think, okay. And it's easy for me to do too because um this is how we live our life.
Yeah.
Um we we live our life in like everything is planned out. Like I know what we have available for breakfast. I know what we have for lunches. I know what we're having for dinner for the week. Things are already pre-made. I do some meal prepping throughout the week. And it's not a foreign idea to us. For
Right.
parents who do not live like that, this can be a very overwhelming thing for
Yeah.
them and they are just like nope, I'm just going to order because it's easier. And I
Right.
get that too, but you also need to understand like your child is an athlete, your dancer is an athlete.
Mhm.
We call them that, we treat them as, we demand that of them, so we need to start fueling them like that also.
Yeah.
So that's something that you kind of need to like change your perspective on. Like yes, it's convenient, um,
Mhm.
but it's maybe not what's best in all the time.
And I think the biggest thing with that is even perceived healthier takeout options are often loaded with sugar that you don't know about, or the way that they cook the
Yeah,
food might
the
just be in
bad fat,
oils
the bad
that,
sugar,
yeah, exactly.
and
So,
And the freshness of it too, like,
That
you
too.
just don't know, and the worst thing is, like, you don't want your child to get, like, food poisoning.
Yes.
I have celiac, so I have a lot of trust issues with food.
Yeah.
I'm very careful, we don't go out to eat very, very often,
Yeah.
but I'm very diligent to ask about, contamination and things like that, so it's always better to err on the side of caution and things like that.
Exactly. And I would say, especially if your child does have any sort of food sensitivity, food allergy that you do know of, and I'm sure those parents are probably the ones that are a little bit more prepared and aware of these things
Yes.
that we're talking about anyway,
Exactly.
because they've probably already had to live that way
Mhm.
because of their child's food restrictions. But it is so important because you don't know about cross contamination everywhere. And even just between the kids, I think sometimes, like, somebody's hungry and they offer a snack. And so
Yeah.
having your own food on hand where you know that your child A is going to tolerate those foods well, it's not going to upset their stomach. And you have to remember, like you said before, there's also a lot of like nerves. There can be some anxiety on these days, which also can cause some stomach upset.
Mhm.
So foods that they tolerate really well are important. I've kind of approach the idea of using like protein drinks or protein shakes if that's something you use in your household, but your child needs to you need to know that they tolerate it well. It needs to be something that they're already using to
Yes.
supplement outside of, a
Yeah.
competition weekend that
Yes.
they've had before. You
Right.
know that their stomach tolerates it well. It's not going to create any gas or bloating or stomach
Mhm.
upset because
Yes.
all of that's going to impact their dancing.
Yeah, you never wanna try anything new the week, that week of, you don't wanna go into if you're a family that eats out all the time, you don't wanna go into your first competition packing, a bunch of vegetables when you have no like, your kid,
Yeah.
are they gonna eat it?
Doesn't
Are they
normally eat that,
on
yeah.
it? You don't know how they're gonna react to it.
Right.
The thing about the protein is funny. I used to do races, marathons,
Mhm.
half marathons, and that one rule was like you only ate and drank what you had used to
Yep.
train with
Yep.
throughout those months because it would take one bad drink or one bad,
Yeah.
pre-race meal to really just mess you up. And
Yeah.
you've already got those jitters, you don't need to add. And that's the thing, things like added sugar and processed foods, those are very hard on your gut as well.
Yeah.
So when we're loading our kids up with the candies and the cookies and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
you're not they might be happy because, "Yay, look at all the treats," but you're really
Yeah.
doing a disservice, in the long run, and it will come out during the day at some point, whether it's a complete, meltdown, stomach ache,
Yeah.
tiredness,
Yep.
those
Headache.
when you see kids get irritable and angry
Yep.
and things like that, that is it's fatigue,
Mhm.
because of lack of sleep and poor diet.
Yeah.
So I always say you have to if you put good in, you're gonna get good out. And
Yes.
I am not saying that if you have a novice dancer and you feed her healthy, she's gonna come out running like triple
Yeah.
whatever, like,
Right.
but I am saying she will be able to perform better, and
Yes.
feel better if they are fueled properly.
Yeah.
It's something to think about. We ask so much of these dancers and these kids.
Mhm.
Um, my husband's a professional athlete, and
Mhm.
you wouldn't see him eating Sour Patch Kids and Pixie Sticks and
Yeah.
ice
Candy
cream,
salad.
20 minutes before he's going out to perform. So I don't know why we think it's okay for kids. I guess just because it's for kids and what it's normal
I
and
think so.
we don't wanna make them angry because we want them to dance but it's a it's like a
Yeah.
cycle, so
And I think what's important here too is I think it's a lot of it's perception on, not just the parents' part, but also, you know, the industry in general at this stage. So competitive dancers, they're not seen as athletes as other
correct.
athletes are.
Mhm.
I think in some circles, yes, like I think it's getting better.
Mhm.
But I don't think every parent recognizes if your child is dancing at a competitive level, at that point, they're really an athlete. So what they're doing is they are their body needs to be primed to
Yes.
perform at their best, just like at any other sport.
They're still
And
building muscle. They're still working
exactly.
muscularly. They're still
Right.
doing all of those things, and they need to be supported in that way.
And the amount of fatigue, I mean, I would say compared to other sports, you think about, maybe tournament weekends for like soccer players or, softball, baseball players, when they have those long tournament weekends, it's probably somewhat similar. But,
Mhm.
our dancers are going out there, they're competing multiple numbers over the course of a couple days. And like you said, the days are very long. They're waking up early, they're going to bed late. So if they're not fueling their bodies properly or supporting themselves properly through that weekend, especially on the second or third day, if it's a convention weekend, their body's depleted,
Yeah.
they're tired, and their risk for injury is
Yeah.
through the roof at that point.
Exponential. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So,
So just supporting them, obviously, with good nutrition
mhm.
is going to be important. But also just, making sure that they understand it too, because sometimes they don't really buy into it. They have to understand that it's important.
Yes.
And, blood sugar
Eh,
spikes and then drops. And that's where you're going to see a lot of the things that you were alluding to
mhm.
before, with just like behavior changes and headaches and fatigue and those sorts of things. So we need that like level.
And it's hard when you're in a group because you've always
Yes.
got those kids that, like, we've all seen them, with, 18 pounds of candy
Yeah.
and the bags of cookies and all that.
Hmm.
And I get it. And everybody wants to share and it's fun and it's cute. And
Hmm.
and I'm not listen, I'm not saying you can't have it.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, instead of the 5-pound bag of Sour Patch Kids, like, maybe just buy, like, the little individual bags, and,
Yeah.
like, that's good. Like, if you
Hmm.
want to have some after you've
Eating
properly
real food.
fueled yourself with something, like a little
Yeah.
bit of protein or some carbs,
Yeah.
like, okay. Like, I will not deny my dancer something,
Hmm.
or if a friend has offered her something, but she also knows too, and it's again, it's how you live your life, like,
Hmm.
that's where it starts. My children are pretty well disciplined in that just because that's what they're used to.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a lot easier for her and for us, and I there's not a lot of fights
Yeah.
about food. It's just kind of how it is,
Yeah.
and, she's very good. We just came back from, a convention weekend that we were away for. It was like, 3 hours away, and, I the week before, "What are we having for breakfast? What are we having for lunch? What are we having for dinner? What are some things you'd need to snack on?" So that I have my head like, we've both know what's happening, like,
Yeah.
and it's her pick, like, she has chosen it, and if she
Yeah.
says something and I'm like, "How about," and we try to steer it in, like, a healthier direction.
Yeah.
Um, so because she's already had her say in it, she's more likely to eat it, and I would say that
Yeah.
that's a really good suggestion if you're trying to make that transition, is get your child involved in it. And I
Yeah.
know kids are so picky and they're like, "My kid won't eat that." Well, if your kid's hungry, they're gonna eat it, I promise. Like, I'm not suggesting that you starve them, but, like, there are so many times where it's like, "My kid won't eat this," like, it's like, well, what is your child eating? And
Right.
if it is only 3 things, then you need to figure out how to make those 3 things more
Yeah.
nutritious. Um,
Hmm.
I had a child for a year who literally only ate pancakes. I mean, it was like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, you figure out how to get the protein in there. You figure out how
Hmm.
to get, the fiber and the fruit, or you mix something, or, you do something sneaky with the syrup, or like whatever. Like, you there's so many things hidden in foods that my kids eat that they would never know. So
Yeah.
if you do have a picky eater, that's fine. You've gotta figure out a way
Yeah.
to work with that, and it'll change eventually, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It is a challenge for sure.
Mhm.
Um, I would. What are your suggestions? My daughter's studio pretty much stays local, so we use a lot of these strategies. But for the most part, I'm packing a cooler in the morning, and bringing it in each day. So we have the opportunity to like kind of come home and prep more food, or, it can stay refrigerated at my house.
Mm.
When you're away like that for a full weekend, are you bringing like a large cooler full of food? I mean, granted,
Yeah.
it's probably only two of you, so you don't need like a ton of food, but
Yeah. Yeah.
how
So
do you handle that? And how do you, handle like being in the hotel? Are there ways that you can like strategize using what's available in a hotel room?
absolutely. Like for example, this weekend where the convention and the competition was, we chose not to stay on site. So there were a billion, literally like 100 hotels within like a 5 mile radius. So
Yeah.
I picked one that was in our budget, but that also had a mini refrigerator or the
Mhm.
option to request one. And I have been in situations where they don't have them, and I do have a cooler. I
Mm.
bring a cooler. Um, I get a good ice pack and it keeps it cold for the drive. And then all hotels have ice machines. So if you need to, you just kind of refill it there. But
Yeah.
I knew going into it that I had a hotel room with a mini refrigerator. I also had a microwave, which was a game changer for me.
Mhm.
And an interesting fact is most hotels do have microwaves available for people to use. They may not be in the rooms, but they will usually give you access to it. So I have found that out, and I bring my Lysol wipes and wipe it down and throw my food in and, heat it up and then leave. So that is always something that I do. So I plan like we've always got the cooler, the mini fridge if it's an option is a great option. So I plan my food around what I know I have.
Yeah.
I also will usually bring something like a toaster. So
Mhm.
if my child does want, like a pancake option or something like a waffle. Like I'll make protein pancakes, protein waffles,
Mhm.
French toast. I can just stick it in the toaster and heat it up for her.
Yeah.
And then she has something like that as well. So people always make fun of me. Like they'll walk into my hotel room and they're like, "Oh my God, you have a kitchen here." And like I kind of do, but
Yeah.
nowadays, they have so many tiny little appliances that you can
Yes.
use. They have, like, tiny little pots and tiny little skillets, and, like, I've
Yeah.
made steak and eggs, in a hotel room. I've made soup where I've just had to, like, warm it up.
Mhm. The
If you've
little
got
like mini crock pots that they have
Yeah,
now.
yeah, if you have a
Yeah.
a kettle, you can just boil some water and add
Yeah.
it some new like, you
Oatmeal.
yeah, oatmeal,
Yeah.
things like that. Like, you just have to get a little bit creative and think outside the box.
Yeah.
But I have knock on wood, I have not yet had, a real big issue with being able to but yes, I bring a cooler, sometimes I bring a bigger one, sometimes I don't usually have to bring, like, a huge cooler, like, it's something
Yeah.
I can very easily carry with one hand, like,
Yeah.
um, so it's planning, like, it's all
Yeah.
planning. It's like, this
Yeah.
is what I know I have available, so this is how I can plan my food.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's a good idea.
yeah,
So in terms of, let's say like you're with a group, right? And you're at a convention for several days. Let's say like the group is going out for a meal
mhm,
together and you're invited.
mhm,
So in those situations, I know your situation's a little bit different because you have celiac, but
yeah,
like if that weren't a factor, let's
mhm,
just say,
right,
um, like how would you handle that? So it depends on probably where they're gonna eat, I
yeah,
would say, for me at least, because if they're going to like a smaller chain restaurant, not necessarily fast food, but a chain,
right,
um, a lot of times for me at least, like my body, and I don't have any known food
mhm,
issues or sensitivities, but I know
yes,
like I don't feel my best sometimes. And I think it's just the way that they cook the food. It might just be that we don't eat out a whole lot. So
yeah,
my body's just not used to some of the
mm,
things that they cook with. But, reading menus and things like that, is there any way to really discern, because if you order a salad, people
mhm,
might think that they're ordering something healthier
right,
at more like those types of restaurants, right? It's not always the case.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, what would you recommend in terms of discerning like health, quote unquote, healthier options from takeout places
yeah.
in terms of like what might actually be healthier and what might not be?
Yeah, I mean it, and that is like always the way. Like we typically do not go out. Every once in a
Mhm.
while, like in a group setting, we have gone out. It always does depend on the place because also if my child isn't going to want to eat anything there,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go. Like
Right.
like, yes, and luckily I have a dancer who does not have FOMO, so
Mhm.
she's not going to be upset that like everyone
Yeah.
else is out to dinner. If they're going to like a Mexican place and she doesn't want Mexican, I'm certainly not going to force her to go.
Right.
So that is always the biggest factor. I am always a big protein first kind of a person. So,
Mhm.
if you're going to any type of like restaurant, you have to hope they're always going to have something protein,
Yeah.
chicken, fish, steak, like whatever it is. Um, and then I just look at how it's cooked. Like,
Okay.
you know, you don't obviously, you don't really want fried, so,
Yeah.
even salad, you get salad, well, it's covered in, like, fried chicken or something, like, can you get it
Yeah.
baked? Or if you're getting fish, can you have it steamed or boiled? Or, um,
Mhm.
instead of getting french fries, let's get a side of veggies or,
Yeah.
salads are good options if you're paying attention to, like, what is in it. Even
Mhm.
for me, like, I have to be careful of, like, what kind of dressing they use
Yeah.
because, like, a lot of dressings are not only have gluten in them, but they're high in sugar. They're high
Yeah.
in they're not giving you the recommended 2 tablespoon serving size that's 100
Right.
calories. They're giving you,
Right.
like, cups of it. So,
Yeah.
and then just the toppings in it. So you like I said, like, you want to just make the better choices. And again, my kids know when they go out to eat, and I always say, like, "What are you going to eat?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "That may not be the best choice
Mhm.
because this could happen, this." And it's not that I want her to be paranoid, but I want her to think about what what could possibly happen. Like, yes, this is what you want. Maybe we steer clear of that because the last time you had that, this happened. Or if
Yeah.
you're eat something that's really high in fat and you're gonna have a stomach ache or,
Right.
it so, again, it's just, I'm a big protein first kind of a person, and then I like to supplement it with, any type of, like, vegetable that's there, and then, like, a healthy carb, like,
Mhm.
everybody's weird about carbs, healthy carbs are great,
No, they're
grains,
good.
rice, potatoes, things like that, and restaurants are good about substituting things. I think it's just people don't wanna ask. They don't
Yeah.
wanna seem like they're a pain or they don't wanna be embarrassed, but, this is your health that you're talking about. There's literally
Yeah.
nothing to be embarrassed about if you wanna be healthier. Like, I'll go in and say, "Hey, can you not put the sauce on there? Like, I would rather just have it plain," or yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal, and you're not the first person to ask. So,
Yeah.
just
And I think food restrictions are more common now.
definitely,
They're
yeah.
definitely more commonly diagnosed and things. So I feel like restaurants in general have just gotten more accustomed to people asking for substitutions as a
Yeah,
result of that. Food
yeah,
allergies, food substitutions.
yeah.
The other thing I wanted to talk about is, just in terms of consistent energy, we were talking about how carbs are so important for,
Mhm.
and they're important for performance. They're also important for recovery. So they're really the most quickly available source of energy for your body. So protein is going to give you
Brain. Like, your brain needs
exactly
carbs to do all
right.
of this. So,
And
no
yeah,
carbs, no carbs. No, no carbs. Eat
yeah,
carbs.
eat carbs,
Eat
healthy
the right
carbs.
carbs. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
that's the key.
Yeah.
And so lack of available energy is also an issue. So not only eating the right foods, but if your dancer doesn't want to eat, period, or if
Mhm.
they're skipping meals, or if they're going long stretches of the day without eating, that can
Yes.
also be an issue, which can also lead to an increase in their risk for injury because it will lead to increase in fatigue. So if you have less available energy when you step on stage and you're still trying to dance full out and give your best performance,
Yes.
but your body's just not there,
Mhm.
there's going to be more of a risk for injury in that circumstance.
Absolutely.
So I think another thing that we could talk about a little bit is just strategies for those kids that really don't want to eat throughout the day, or they just say they're not hungry or they're too busy, and just trying to find ways to get food into them. We
Mhm.
talked about having stuff available. So I think that's probably my most practical
Right.
advice, really, is just having
Yeah.
stuff there, having it prepared. But maybe instead of encouraging them to like sit down and eat a meal on a break, just make sure that they are eating maybe small portions of healthier foods
Yeah.
throughout the day. So
Yeah.
like maybe they don't want to fill their stomach with food. Maybe they just want like a little bit of something,
Mhm.
but maybe every couple of hours,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
just check in and try to encourage them to have a little bit of something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like as we would tell adults who are, learning how to eat, I say learning how to eat because part of my job is like teaching people how to eat for certain goals.
Right.
And it's amazing how many people just don't know how to eat, but you want to have food coming in every few hours. And when they say like 3 meals, 2 snacks, that's still kind of, you know, what we're aiming for. So if your
Hmm.
child isn't going to eat a meal, you still need to be giving them a little something. So like
Yeah.
a meal is usually I don't like to count calories, especially when it
Right.
comes to kids. But, when you're kind of planning the difference between a meal and a snack, say a meal is maybe around like 400 calories, a snack should maybe be around like 200 or less than that.
Hmm.
So that's little things. For snacks, I like to pair like a fruit or a veggie with a healthy fat. So, you need the fat to transport the
Hmm.
vitamin and the mineral and things like that. So if you want to do an apple with the peanut butter, they don't need to
Hmm.
eat an entire apple even. Just
Hmm.
maybe take a few slices of an apple with some peanut butter or maybe a hard-boiled egg, like,
Hmm. Yeah.
a handful of grapes to go with that or maybe, just some cheese and,
Crackers.
something else, cheese and crackers, bell peppers and guacamole. That's like one of my kids' favorites.
Oh, that's a good one.
Just little things. And, also I do find if you can get your child alone and
Hmm.
just, because they're always
Yeah.
so caught up and they want to be with the friends but if you kind of have it in your child's head, like, I need you to do this. Like, I
Hmm.
need you to sit down and maybe if it's just they just need to sit down and be quiet. It's not to eat. In that moment of quiet, they will refocus and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna try to eat something."
Yeah.
But, that's hard too. Your kids don't wanna, like, be away from each other, but, it's very important that you just set aside,
Hmm.
maybe every hour you're checking on them. Like,
Yeah.
"Can do this. Just take some of this." And it doesn't have to be big, like,
Right.
but it does need to be consistent, and it does need to be healthy.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing is, fluids, like
I was gonna bring that up too. Yeah. That's good. Good segue.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. Like, making sure, like, if they are not eating, they definitely need to be drinking water.
Yeah. I'd argue both are extremely important, but yeah.
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 Um, and
Hydration.
yeah, like, I'm always bringing the water bottles, you can bring your
Hmm.
stainless steel, a lot of places you go have the refillable water
Yeah.
stations or, I always have a case of water in the car just in case
Yeah.
we run out. Um, and I don't really recommend things like Gatorade or
No.
juices, things like
No.
that.
Too much
I like
sugar.
water. Electrolytes, I use on
Hmm.
a case by case basis. I don't know that they need to be drinking them all day long, but especially like for my daughter, like I'll put half of an electrolyte in her water and she'll
Hmm.
drink that throughout the day.
Yeah.
But it is a better option than like Gatorade or
Yes.
juice or, something like that. Protein shakes, I'm not a huge fan of protein shakes just because most of them are loaded with sugar. And
Yeah.
if you want to get into like weird science of things, like your body doesn't actually use all of the protein that you're drinking because of how
Hmm.
it's converted. And it's like a whole thing. But like,
Yes.
you think, oh, I'm going to have this protein shake and it's 20 grams of protein. You're not really getting
Yeah.
and utilizing that. So it's kind of just a sugar calorie bomb that's not really doing much good for you.
Well,
But
same thing with like protein bars and granola bars and things like that. I
yeah,
think those can be
yeah,
really deceitful in terms of the marketing versus what they're actually doing for your body. And,
yes.
I think there's better options out there, but the average consumer doesn't really know how to sort through those
Yeah.
options and determine. I just saw a study actually that was talking about just drinking chocolate milk post workout and how um yeah, like that was actually a really good option in terms of just
Yes.
protein and available energy. So I mean, for dancers, like what kid doesn't like chocolate milk? I'm sure there's some kids out there that don't
And
like
I will
chocolate milk,
say, my
but
husband, who's a professional athlete, they
mhm,
give them chocolate milk.
yes.
Like when they're done, they give them chocolate milk to
Yep.
drink, which, it's an
So here's
option.
our endorsement for chocolate milk at dance competitions.
Yeah.
Someone
Don't
put up a stand.
don't drink it when you're wearing your costume, for Pete's sake.
Yes.
But
Or if you're lactose intolerant.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's like one of our things
Yes.
too. Like lactose can, but there are different options. You can get a
Yes.
plant-based milk,
You can. Yeah.
things like that. Like there are other options. But
Yeah.
yes, that is one that it's funny because to see my husband walking around with like a chocolate mouth. I'm like,
I
but
mean,
yeah, no,
well,
they do say that
yeah.
chocolate milk is a good one, and it gives you that quick boost
Yep.
that you need, and you're getting like a little bit of nutrition out of it. But yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So staying well hydrated also is
Yes.
super important. I like the electrolytes just because
I do too.
if you're drinking the right one, there's a little bit of potassium, there's some
Yep.
magnesium, there's some sodium in there.
Mhm.
You need all of those to be replaced to prevent cramps, headaches,
Yep.
fatigue. If your kid's sweating a lot, sometimes
Yep.
these venues have no
They're
air
really hot.
conditioning. It's 100
Yeah.
degrees in there.
Mhm.
So even if they're not like visibly sweating, they still need to have that stuff replaced. So
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea.
yeah,
I usually, well, my daughter will do like one a day when
yeah.
she's competing.
Mhm.
And does it always necessary? I don't know, but I don't think it hurts either.
I think it's a case by case basis.
Yeah,
Do I think they need to be drinking it every day? Probably not.
probably not
But
every day.
definitely on the days that they're working and sweating
Hmm.
and prolonged periods of work, then yeah, like it's not going to
Yeah,
hurt them. Just
definitely.
again, you just need to read some labels because a lot of them are just sugar bombs.
Yes.
Um, so you just have to be choosy about that.
Yep. Be careful what you're giving
Yeah.
them that way.
Like everything
Um,
else,
yes. So
everything is about reading labels, and some people don't wanna do it, and I get it. It can be very overwhelming, especially if you don't know, and marketing is so crazy, now
mhm.
this big push for protein, so you're seeing, like, protein cookies and no, just
Yes.
because it's got protein on it doesn't make it healthy, like,
Right. Exactly.
so, you know, we have to be very diligent,
I guess that's a good point too. Like,
yeah,
can you touch on that? So if parents are looking for healthier options for their kids, so say they want to like go to the food store before they go to a convention and they're looking for snacks and things that they can bring
mhm,
to like give their kid because they want to bring some stuff and
yeah.
they don't know a whole lot about this. Like, what would you recommend people look for when they're reading labels?
So, first and foremost, and this is not feasible for everybody, I always say that if you can make it yourself, do that.
Yeah, true.
If you can make like my kids, like we eat cookies, they eat muffins,
Yeah.
they eat those things, but I make it. I
Yeah.
make it so that I know exactly what's in it. I
Hmm.
know how much sugar's in it. I can substitute things if I need to. There's no preservatives in it because
Right.
I know it's only gonna last for 3 days, so it's a lot healthier option. So if that is at all an option for you, I do that.
Yeah.
Um, if not, and if you're going to the store, my rule is usually perimeter shopping,
Yeah.
fruits, veggies. Obviously, you're not buying anything from the frozen department, but even things like deli meat. There are healthy deli options. You can
Mhm.
bring little, meat and cheese roll-ups.
Yep.
Things that are very perishable, things that aren't going to last.
Right.
So, things like that. If I'm buying something with a label on it, 5 or less ingredients, and
Okay.
you gotta be able to read it and you
Yeah.
gotta know what it is.
Okay.
So if it and listen, like that is not always because sometimes if you live in like the gluten-free world,
Mhm.
you've got to have a lot of other ingredients to like
Yeah.
get structure and things like that. But those ingredients should still be
Things you can recognize.
things that you can recognize and that
Mhm.
you can say, and that if you were eating it on your own, it's something that you could eat on its own. You know what I mean?
It's a good yeah.
So that is my rule. And like when I am teaching my adult clients like how to go grocery shopping and how to like eat healthier, like that is the one thing. Like you go in your pantry and if it's, if 5 or less ingredients and you got to read it, you got to know what it is. Um and that is my biggest and that will eliminate a lot of, a lot of like
That
what you
eliminates like half the foods in my house.
yeah. So yeah, and that's actually something that we implemented got years and years ago, probably back in like 2012.
It's
You know,
amazing.
yeah, my husband was having a lot of health issues and we couldn't figure out why. So I went on this, down this rabbit hole of foods and he came home and our entire pantry was empty. And he was like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "This is what we're going to do from now on." And it has made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Um, so those are my suggestions. And you wanna be eating real whole foods anyways,
Mhm.
so those middle aisles, when I'm shopping, I don't really go down them unless
Yeah.
I'm buying things like flour or rice.
I was gonna say, there's certain
Yeah.
things like, oatmeal, like if you're buying oats or
Yeah.
something,
I mean, and
like
even
oatmeal,
I have
maple
like a
syrup.
I have like a love-hate relationship with oatmeal, so
Okay.
don't even get me started. But, it's
Packaged oatmeal is not I mean, but, like, if you're
yeah,
buying the rolled
yeah,
oats,
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm just if you're looking at a box and you don't know what you can't even pronounce it, like, just put it on
Mhm.
the shelf, like,
Yeah, and I
it
think
might
too, like, another thing I was thinking of when
right?
as you were talking about that was, for the people who, like you mentioned, making things at home. So, like, if you're gonna make cookies, like, it's not that cookies are bad, but like, store-bought packaged cookies probably aren't the best in terms of
Right,
ingredients.
yeah.
So, like cookies, muffins, any of those other things, like we like to make the egg bites.
Oh, yeah. No, those
So
are
we'll
huge.
just like mix up eggs and veggies and stuff and like bake them into the little like muffin shapes. And
Yeah, yeah,
those are great because they're portable. You can bring those.
mhm,
But a lot of those things you can also, let's say, like you don't need to make them like the Thursday night before you're leaving Friday morning for a convention. You
yeah,
can make them ahead of time and freeze them.
yeah, yeah,
And so that's usually what I end up doing because I don't have a lot of time. So when I
mhm,
have time, I'll make batches of things
mhm,
and then I'll just freeze it and then I'll take it out of the freezer when we're
yeah,
ready to use it
yeah.
and let it thaw. So I
Things
think
like
that's like a great strategy for people.
yeah, I mean, like, we'll make hard-boiled eggs,
Hmm.
they last a
They
week.
do.
Um,
Yeah.
so, that's always a big one. I mean, I traveled internationally when we went on vacation, and I brought my little cooler on the plane, and I had hard-boiled eggs in there. I
Nice.
had made, like, salads that I put in, like, mason jars,
Yep.
um, just because on a plane, there's not,
Yeah.
it's like a hot pot. You don't
Yeah.
wanna eat anything on a plane. So like, I would always just make sure that, like, I had my own stuff, but, like, yeah, there are things that you can do that, with your little igloo, lunchbox cooler,
Lunchbox.
you can put a lot of stuff in there,
Yeah.
and you're totally fine, so
And she's not lying either because I have traveled with her before. She really does do all of these things.
Yes, yep, yep, and, like, I love to bake, I love
Mhm.
baking, and my kids love to have things, so, you can bake muffins and you can bring them for everybody, and it's
Yep.
a fun little sweet treat for them, and
Yep.
it's healthy, and they
Yep.
think it's good, and everybody's fine, and
Yeah.
As long as you're not totally depriving your kid, like, I'm not gonna say, like, we were in Hershey this weekend and there's chocolate everywhere. And,
Yeah.
my daughter didn't ask for a million things, but, at the end of the weekend, she was like, "Hey, do you think we could get ice cream?" And I'm like, yes, like, I'm not a monster. You know, like, we do we do these things, but it's not all day long and it's not every
Yeah.
day. It's
And
not.
that's what I think is important. Also, we touched on hydration, but one thing we didn't really talk about is what they're drinking aside from just making sure that they're properly hydrated. And the rule that I use for hydration too, because we didn't really talk about this,
Yeah.
is usually trying to drink like half their body weight in ounces per
Mhm.
day of
Yeah,
water.
yeah.
But even just like sugary drinks, you mentioned like
Yeah.
juices and things like that, but I mean like the energy drinks that are
Oh,
popular with kids.
oh god, no.
Um,
I don't
and then
recommend for children.
anyone. No.
I think what you could really go down a rabbit hole and all the horrible
Yes.
things that they do to your heart and your liver and your kidneys and
Mhm.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
why would you do that? Like, why?
Right.
I see kids walking around with Monster and Prime, and I am like,
Yeah.
"My God," like.
Well, and a lot of them contain caffeine, and I think what's important to realize is like just like your blood sugar spiking, like caffeine is a drug, right?
Mhm,
So it's a neurological response. Like if your child's trying to get energy from caffeine, it's a neurological response in your body to that drug. It's
mhm,
not fuel that your body can use,
right.
right? So it's not helping your body sustain any sort of like normal metabolic
Not at all.
process.
Not at all.
No. So that's I think the important piece of that. And then also things like, I mean, I know they all love Starbucks,
Oh,
like
I
all the
was just
Starbucks
gonna
drinks.
say that.
Sorry,
Starbies,
I need
everybody
to do
loves Starbies, yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, and listen, like, we will hit the Starbucks,
same.
but I have I
After.
have guidelines. If she wants it beforehand, she's usually getting, like a tea sort of drink, like,
Yeah.
they have,
Mhm.
like, some hibiscus tea, and, yeah, it probably has sugar in it, but it's tea, and it's cold, and it's whatever. If she wants to wait, if she wants it after, I'm a little bit more flexible with that.
Yeah.
But
Same here.
it's kind of like after we've done what we need to do,
Yep.
and the risk for all of the the things has gone,
Yes.
after she's eaten properly and things like that. Um, and yeah, like it's so trendy, right? Like all the girls do
Mhm.
it and love to do it. And listen, I love myself a Starbucks every once,
Same.
but
Yeah.
who doesn't? But yeah, we just need to be like a little bit more and it's not even like it's very easy. It's just sitting down with your child and having a discussion. And
Yeah.
sometimes yes, they're probably too young to understand, but
Mhm.
um at some point they understand what they're doing. They are
Mhm.
competitive dancers. They have a whole team
Yep.
relying on them to be at their very best,
Yeah.
for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 6 hours, 2 like, whatever.
Whatever it is.
Um,
Yeah.
so you need to be able to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Explaining to a child that in order to do that, we need to fuel properly, we need to do these things, whatever. I think that maybe as parents, we maybe don't give our kids enough credit that
Mhm.
maybe they wouldn't understand or, "Oh, my kid would
Agreed.
never," but, like, if you can just sit down and have a conversation with them and kind of explain to them, like, "This is what we need to do to put your best foot forward," and
Mhm.
it's not all day, every day. I mean, for some people it is. It is all day, every day,
Yeah.
but, during this time, we really need to be at our best, and to do that, we have to put good things in so that we get the good things out. It came back to, like, what I said in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think kids and getting them involved, I think that's really,
Mhm.
like, the recipe for it,
I
and
like that suggestion.
yeah, kids would be a lot more willing to do things if they feel like they have some control over it.
Mhm. Give them
Um,
choices.
yeah, so, like, "Hey, you can't have this, but we can have this or this."
Mhm.
Like, which one would you prefer?
And I think 2 things that I thought of. One is that if you think about the investment, and if you explain it to them this way, it may make more sense.
Mm,
The investment they make to get to that day, right? The amount of
right.
time they put into, learning technique in class and
Mhm.
rehearsing those dances and learning choreography and, getting costumes prepared and all of the things that go into preparing for competition. Your diet that weekend is one small contribution to that
Right.
preparation,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like, don't you want to be able to perform your best? Like, that's really what's required in
Okay.
order to make all of that come together. The
Yes.
other thing is that we're just talking about competition weekends. A lot of this stuff should really be employed year round, to be
Yes.
honest.
Yes.
So they are athletes. They don't need to just fuel and eat like athletes on
Mhm.
competition weekends. It is
Right.
very important on competition weekends because of the amount of workload that they're doing and
Mhm.
the stress placed on their
Yeah.
body from a mental and physical standpoint.
Mhm.
But throughout the regular season, they should be doing these things also.
Yes. And this goes back to, how you live your life at
Yeah.
home. Um, Not every family, is going to make dinner every night and
Right.
being able to do that. And I know most of us are on the go and
Yeah.
we're eating in the car or we're having whatever. Um, there are ways to work around it, but you
Mhm.
have to make it a commitment and a way of life. And
Yeah.
for us, it's a priority.
Yeah.
It isn't so much a choice
Mhm.
of, oh, are we going to make dinner tonight? Or it is that is what we have chosen to put at the top of our list.
Yeah.
Um, because it doesn't just affect what we do today or tomorrow.
Mhm.
It affects us in 5 years and 10 years.
Mhm.
And um, when you're faced with certain situations, having that solid foundation, is only going to help you. So it, it it's very might be overwhelming to start, but it takes very very small steps. I have like a
Yes.
6 week thing that I do with my clients because I don't expect you to like one day sign up and say, hey, I wanna be a clean eater forever. Like, when I say, "Okay, this is what you're gonna do," because
Yeah.
they would walk out the door. Like, you have to make these small gradual changes and then just
Yeah.
commit to it.
Yeah.
Because if you do it all at once, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe every method that you try, some work and some don't work, and then
Yeah.
you just have to figure it out from there.
Right.
But yes, making sure that your child every day is eating something nutritious for breakfast, whether
Mhm.
that be you have something or you've made it or whatever, and making sure I make my kids lunches every day.
Mhm.
They don't like school lunch, for the most part. So
Mhm.
I'm I ask my kids, "Hey, what are we eating this week for lunch?" So, I know what
Mhm.
I'm making for dinner. It's kind of already set up for the week, like we know what we're gonna have. That's just how we do it. That's how we live. But your dancers need to start taking responsibility for that on their own too. When they're at the
Yeah.
studio for 6 hours on a
Mhm.
weeknight, they need to either know or have available to them, a good
Something. Yeah.
like I know it's easy to run across the street and grab whatever, but it's almost
Mhm.
just as easy to make
Yeah. Or
make a sandwich
easier.
or
Yeah.
yeah, like, like, we are very lucky we're at a studio that has, like, a microwave and a refrigerator and, like,
Yeah.
a lounge type area,
Mhm.
because there are kids that are there for
Mhm.
extended periods of time. So they
Yeah.
mean that, okay, we know that we're gonna have kids here for a long time. We need to make some things available to them. But you can put it in a thermos or you can bring a little lunchbox. Like it's very
Mhm.
easy to make a sandwich at home, as opposed to like going to the
Yeah.
grocery store or the gas station and getting a sandwich. And
Yeah.
it's so again, it all takes a little bit of planning, but once you do it, it just kind of becomes second nature, I think.
Yeah, and I think like as you said before, making small changes. So like if you're listening to this and you're like, "Oh my gosh, my kid needs to eat like so much better
Right.
on convention weekends." Like don't try to do all of these things in one
Yeah,
weekend.
no.
Your kid will hate you.
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
that's not really what we're trying to say.
Yeah,
But
no, not at all. No.
recognize like what things maybe you can incorporate. So maybe you just start with bringing snacks one
Right.
weekend and, knowing what healthy snacks your child likes and bringing snacks and making sure that they're drinking enough water. So that's like one small change that can
Right.
make a huge difference if
Right.
that's
And,
something they're not already doing.
those little snackle box things are
Yes.
all the rage right
They're
now.
amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, they've
My
been
daughter loves
around
them.
forever, but now all of a sudden everybody is, like, catching on, but
Yeah.
that's a great little option, to
Mhm.
have that, put it's a great thing to put little fruits and veggies in. Like,
Yep.
I have a couple of, like, the smaller ones. It's like,
Yep.
one will have fruits and veggies, one
Mhm.
has, like, meats, cheeses,
Mhm.
crackers, things like
Yep.
that. Um, there is not a candy one, okay? Like, a candy snackle box. There
No.
is a single serving size of a
Yes.
treat that you
A
can
treat.
have when you're
Mhm.
done, and you can be a spaz after that. But
Right.
yeah, no, there's not
Yeah.
a tackle box of Sour Patch Kids. Although I'm
No.
sure the kids would love it, but it's not. It
Oh,
does.
they're out there. I'm sure people have them.
Oh
I
no,
mean, I know people have them. I'll
yeah,
say I've seen it. But
yeah.
yeah, my daughter's actually been bringing hers to the studio on
Mhm.
like Saturdays. They have long rehearsals. So,
Right.
but it's great because there are food places in the like adjacent to where she dances that she can buy food from. But she actually prefers now the snackle box. So she
Yeah.
asked me to pack it for her and she
Mhm.
wants things like veggies and
Yeah.
fruits and like she likes berries and she'll bring maybe some trail mix. Like sometimes I'll throw some
Yeah.
M&Ms in there or something like as a
Well, like,
treat.
you're not a monster. Like, you can't.
But yeah, so but she loves it because if she does have like a quick break, she can pull it out and have a snack and then
Right.
stick it back and then
Yeah.
have another snack later. But she doesn't have to worry about waiting for her food to be ready somewhere else
Yes.
and not making it back and not
No,
having time to
yeah,
eat. So
now you've got that time to actually relax,
yep,
recover,
yep,
take a breath,
yeah,
do some stretching while you're
mm-hmm,
eating. Like, there are like,
yeah,
it's a lot of different things to think about.
yeah,
It all makes so much sense. And there's
yeah,
no stress and like, oh my God, I only have 10 minutes. That's a big thing at conventions and
yeah,
competitions. Like, you're running out, you're trying to get food, you're hoping the Uber
mm-hmm,
food guy didn't get an accident or someone else is
right.
eating whatever because they left.
Your food.
Or
Where did
yeah,
they leave it?
just so many other
Yeah,
things to worry about, like just having it there. And the stress of that, like, that adds up to your kid too. Like,
yeah,
maybe your kid is like, "Oh my god, am I gonna get to eat?"
yeah,
It's stressful for them. They don't need that. They're already dealing with enough stuff.
yes,
Or, like, you're stressed, so now they're feeding off of your stress.
yes,
It's just a lot. Like, like I said, like, the Snackle box is a great idea. It's fill it, and this is something you could do if you're, like, a first timer. Like,
yeah,
there's a billion options. You could get
yep,
4, 2, 6, whatever.
hmm
I have small ones that fit in the lunchbox. I have a giant
yeah,
one,
I do
whatever.
too.
Like, pick 2 fruits, pick 2 veggies, get some deli meat in there, have
Hmm.
some cheeses, get some whole wheat crackers. Boom.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
that is a great lunch. You've got
Yep.
your carbs, you've got your fat, you've got your protein, y and, like, that's great. And then you can that is really the basis of what you need. Or,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, like you said too, they have like the little single serving things of now of like um no peanut butter if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not
Hummus,
okay, but then
peanut butter,
also
ranch
hummus, like
dressing. Yeah.
guacamole, yeah,
Yeah.
all the things that you were mentioning earlier. They have the little single serving packets.
Yep.
So like those are great too for, if you're away, competition
Mhm.
convention, even school lunches and if,
Yeah.
they have a long rehearsal day at the studio, those are
Yeah.
easy things that you can pack
And, the
alongside of.
snackle boxes come, like, I just got some from Amazon that they're
Mhm.
stainless steel and they're just 2s. So they're
Yep.
small, they fit into, like, a very small lunchbox because I
Yep.
don't always wanna carry around a giant
Huge
lunch.
one.
Or, like, I don't wanna carry around a casserole. That's another thing. I always see people asking, like, "How do we keep things cold?"
Yeah, the
The big
casserole.
ones. Casserole, like,
Yep.
dish things,
Yep.
like, throw some ice
They're
packs in,
insulated.
they're
Yep, ice
insulated, that's
packs.
cool. But, like, if you don't wanna carry that, like, I bought they're this big. They've got 2 containers. You can put
Mhm.
cheese in one, meat in one, fruits,
Yep.
veggies, like,
Yep.
and they're small and they're convenient. So
Yeah.
there are lots of things that you can do.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of it comes down to planning.
it does. Um, and I look on those Facebook groups, and most of the people have pretty good ideas.
They do.
Aside from the pixie sticks and alcohol, I think most
Yeah.
most of the
Gosh.
suggestions are pretty good.
Right.
So, just ask people,
Yeah.
there's always people willing to share information.
Yeah. Thanks for adding all of your wisdom and context. I know that you've been doing it for a while, and
Yeah.
with all of your background as well as your own food restrictions, I know that you tend to kind of live this lifestyle anyway. So you're the perfect person to have this conversation with, because you're definitely very well versed in how to make
Thank
it
you.
work.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people are looking for more than anything right now. So we
And
appreciate
like,
all of
I'm
your input.
human. I am a human. I am a mom. I have 4
True.
kids. I have my own business. Like,
Mhm.
I'm a busy person. And
Mhm.
you don't need 7 hours on a Sunday. You need
Right.
20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and you can make it
Right.
work. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
All
So,
right. Well, thanks again so much. We appreciate having you. If anyone wants to hear any other ideas, just give us an email. We might have some ideas that can help you troubleshoot some things. So reach out. Thanks a lot.
thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something. Please be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Also, make sure you head over to Instagram and YouTube and follow us there. Send us your listener questions, topic suggestions, and feedback at drdancemompodcast@gmail.com. That's Dr. fully written out, Dance Mom Podcast, also fully written out, @gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening.